What? Okay. By and large, there are no huge changes this year. We talked about the changes with the trackers. You can only use the in-reach units now. The checkpoint, next to the last checkpoint, meaning, or maybe, how would you say that? The last checkpoint before the finish has moved from the Tivoli Highway 35 bridge at Calhoun's to what we refer to as Wooden Bridge. However, it is no longer wooden.
That's good.
Well, it's an additional 5. That doesn't mean that you cannot use the Calhoun's as a feeding station or what have you, but you must pay the entry fees and that sort of thing to use it. We're not responsible. I know that if you're a member of TCKRA, you get a window sticker, and that entitles you to park at
Fentress, Amigos Beach.
Fentress, Amigos. I'm trying to remember what Tom's place is called.
Goins's, San
Goins's,
Marcos River Retreat.
San Marcos River Retreat, and Calhoun. So that takes care of quite a bit of your training needs. So another good reason to join TCKRA is if you needed more. All right. All right. Very quickly through the competition rules. All members of a team must travel together in the same boat or canoe and under the same regulation. Kristen mentioned earlier that team captains are completely separate from the people in the boat. In 1986, I'm standing, I told you I'm from the 1900s, right? I mean, I'm standing at the bridge as the people come in. We're waiting for the last boat, and it's a standard boat, which is a 2-person boat. And finally, this boat comes around the corner, and there are 3 people in the boat, and we hadn't been able to find the team captain. And are there any lawyers in here? So lo and behold, they get there, and it's like, where's your team captain? The guy in the middle of the boat says, I'm the team captain. I said, what are you doing? He said, what do you mean, what am I doing? He said, I'm doing all the things. He said, they need water, I give them water. I know where they're at all the time. He goes through this whole list, and he's kind of right. So, your team captain is not in the boat with you. There are no relays. If you drop out, you can't get back in the boat. You can't get any assistance. If your boat breaks, it's incumbent upon you to have the things to repair your boat. If you need medical care, that's your decision or your team captain's decision. We're not there to decide for you. And that's really, I cannot emphasize how important a part of the team captain is. That's part of the reason why these admin fees, it sounds so ridiculous when we're listing them out, is so that you think about what you're doing before you put your name on that bottom line, that you have a plan. It's amazing how many times that folks, the first meeting is like, oh, I'll be your team captain, and it's like, geez Louise, how are you gonna work this out? It works out for some people, but it's not a good way to go about things. Hi Mike, I didn't see you sneak in. Let's see, if your tracker is malfunctioning and one of the guys that has tracker on the side of his shirt says stop, that's not, an option. It's not like, well, I'll meet you at the next bridge or whatever. If he wants you to stop so they can check the tracker, you need to stop. And it's because we're trying to keep track of you so we know where you're at and all things are good. Penalties, from time penalties to disqualification may only be imposed by the head race judges, the race chairman, or someone on the safari board of directors. So just in case, that's really more for our checkpoint officials to understand. They can come to us with a need for a penalty, but it's not just a willy-nilly, oh, 15 minutes for being a jerk kind of thing. You must negotiate over, around, under, or through all of the obstacles from San Marcos to the finish line at Seadrift. For a shortcut to be legal, and I'll give you a picture of one in the course description later. There must be a flow of water through it. So, it's been a long, well, I guess we technically had high water during the race last year, didn't we? Jeez Louise. I will say this about the finish line at Seadrift. Last year was only the second time in the history of the race that we stopped short of salt water. And the first 5 teams made it through, and actually the first 6 teams made it through. 5 made it to Seadrift. We caught the 6th and pulled them out at Tivoli because a dangerous situation was occurring. And in our best judgment, we needed to stop the race because I'd rather you be mad at me for stopping the race than to attend another funeral. There wasn't any funerals because of it. We did stop the race short. So in high water, sometimes on the lower river, you can see the river on the other side where it makes a loop. That doesn't mean you can hit the bank, carry your boat over, and cut that loop off. If there's not a flow of water, you have to go through it. If there's not a flow of water, you cannot go through it, even if you can see it. And so that's where overland portages are not allowed except where necessary for jams, dams, or bridges, etc. You have to get out immediately above the obstacle where it's safe and return as soon as it's safe. Exceptions to the rule, the left channel around Thompson's Island or Cape's Dam, you can go that way, but when you get to the road bridge, you have to portage along the road bridge and put back in the main river channel. And I know some of you all look at me like, what the heck is he talking about? I'll try to remember to cover that when we get to the course description. The Victoria Barge Canal and the boat cut, and we'll look at that when we go to the finish. And any cuts between Highway 59, if you're old enough to remember, it used to be called Loop 175, so that's, I may use those interchangeably, and Swinging Bridge. So basically you have to stay in the river channel no matter what's happening through there. Coastal portion of the race is from when the river dumps into San Antonio Bay. You must wear your life jacket, your PFD. In case of stormy weather or high wind, you can follow the shoreline to Seadrift once you get on the east side of Guadalupe Bay. And you can row, paddle, walk, swim, carry, or drag the boat from the east side of Guadalupe Bay to the finish line. You cannot enter the barge canal. If you carry it, you must follow the shoreline, which means, there's places where it sticks out. You can't just, just like in the river, you can't just drag along the road or something. Let's see, if you enter the barge canal, you may be disqualified or face a minimum time penalty of 2 hours. It's something you need to learn because it's getting more and more difficult to discern where the barge canal is, because once they changed some environmental regulations to when they dredge that barge canal out, they don't dump all of the spoils back and rebuild those islands. The reason we don't want you in the barge canal is because one of those barges displaces so much water it can, it'll make you go swimming, I guarantee you. And as that water rushes back, it'll pull you into that barge. I mean, it's a dangerous place to be, so we want to keep you away from it. When you have to cross the barge canal, look both ways before crossing. Just like your mama told you when you were small. Intentional interference with another team's progress during the race will be grounds for disqualification. Pace boats, you can't have a pace boat. Somebody to paddle along or take a motorboat and you just follow along. Can't do that. Deliberate littering of the rivers is grounds for disqualification. Teams should keep their trash in the canoe and hand it over to people on the bank. And same thing applies, maybe we need to spell that out, even applies to your team. You know, don't leave all of your, matter of fact, the best practice is to carry your trash out with you, because every year, you know, some of the places, 236 comes to mind, you know, there's more trash than the system can handle. And so take that with
Including
you.
your lost and found. Please don't leave your chairs here today.
Yeah.
And don't leave them along the race course. Pack it in, pack it out.
Yeah, and if you do have a lost and found, basically that's called Patty's carport at the end of the.
Via Mary Wilson, who'll be very mad at you.
Yeah, Mary Wilson's good. Cutoff times, and these we will go through as we do the course description. Just know that the only one that has changed for those of you who've raced previously is the where we changed the cutoff time at Wooden Bridge is at 5 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday now, instead of 1 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock in the morning, because you're traveling an additional 5 miles down the river. And now we're to team captain. Oh yeah. Well, I'll talk about that more in depth about parking.
No, about not following the deadlines.
Oh yeah. This is just how to not race the Texas Water Safari. You know, we'll call this 102 because there are probably other ways not to do it. Do not use these deadlines as your race plan. And because it will ultimately bite you in the backside. It won't work. Probably won't work. There have been some exceptions. The Staples cutoff, you know, there was a team that broke their boat just downstream from here. This is, man, quite a while back. And they got it back together and they barely made that cutoff, but they had it patched up enough to where they were able to keep going, you know, and they got a little bit back and a little bit back and a little bit back. But don't think you're going to get to, you know, Palmetto at 6 a.m. on Saturday. It's like, man, I'm going to kick back till, you know, I don't know, 10 in the morning. Then I'm going to go, and because 4 hours to Gonzo is pretty good time, and even if you're fresh. So, you know, bear that in mind. You don't want to use these as your race plan. All right, you're going to run through team captain maybe.